There's a place called Lovesick Lake, which I believe flows into Stony Lake, and there lived, or perhaps still lives, a legend from Arkansas originally who made Canada his home. A band called the Hawks backed him. They would become the band, as you guys know. Ronnie Hawkins, he started all of that, and I guess he helped Rush, in a way, start moving pictures.
Yeah.
Tell us how, for those
Well,
who
we
don't.
were looking for some place that we could set up and rehearse as well as do any kind of album recording. And Ronnie had a little studio at his place up on Stony Lake, and he was up on the top of the hill on the lake. And in his garage, he had a rehearsal studio set up as well as a little garage for his cars. So it was handy for us to park our cars in there too, as long as aside our equipment. And we basically just stayed up there for about a month, I think, and spent our days writing and rehearsing in this little garage. And it was a really great environment. You know, it was summertime. We were in sort of central Ontario, we'll say. The place was very vibey. The people that were at the house were very, very sweet. There was a really nice lady that took care of us, cooked dinners, a local woman. It was a friend of theirs. So there was a really good vibe and a really good energy. And I think that flowed right through the whole experience of the album. You know, we didn't start recording until very late in the year. There was a really good energy right from the beginning, right through it. Not to say that there wasn't a lot of hard work, but it was very, very positive.
What's interesting in thinking back is that originally we were not going to do an album then. We were going to, I think, put out another live album, weren't we? And at the last minute, we changed our minds and decided, nah, screw it, let's make another record. And yeah, I remember that's the way it went down. And so in a way, it was kind of shaking things up. You know, let's change the way we're doing things. Let's go back in the studio instead. We were fired up from Permanent Waves, I think, and wanted to kind of keep that going.
And you waited, because the Stage Left came thereafter.
Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Did you do what John Lennon did to Ronnie and stick him with a massive phone bill?
No, but I wrecked his truck.
You did? Who was driving?
I had an airplane. Like, I was into model airplanes at the time, radio-controlled airplanes. I just got my pilot's license, so I was in this whole aviation thing. Built this airplane, took off, a couple of flights. It was not bad. Got it up nice and high. The wing snapped, and it just did a spiral right into the top of his truck. And the next time I saw him, I said, "Ronnie, I'm so sorry. Your truck was in the backyard of my plane, and right in the top of the cab." And he said, "Well, it's not the first hole that's been up there." Great response from him.
Wait a minute, a remote plane, a plane.
Yeah.
That
Not an actual plane.
Yeah. No, it was a remote control plane.
What kind of toys are you playing with now?
Stuff that's not so dangerous.
Like what?
There's no time for play anymore. You know, I play golf. I think that's probably my big thing, and play a lot of tennis. Ged plays a lot of tennis, and I have a couple of grandkids, and they take up a lot of my spare time. So
you're playing with toys.
I am playing with toys. Yeah, in fact, I am playing with toys. Let's spent the whole weekend with them playing toys.
Bats and balls and.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs.
Basically. Trucks, iPads.
Yeah, the toys have changed.
They sure have.
It used to be a cardboard box.
Or a piece of wood. Yeah.
How's your tennis game getting?
It's good.
Yeah.
It's hanging in. I haven't played for a few weeks now. When I'm getting ready for a tour, I find I can't play tennis and work out and rehearse. Otherwise, my body just goes into OD. So I intentionally stopped playing tennis while I, train for the tour.
Now, of course, I know Neil's the lyricist, but if you could give us some insight, very few songs ever done by Rush aren't with words by Neil, but Moving Pictures features a wonderful song that actually he co-wrote the words, if I'm not mistaken, with someone that you guys knew through Max Webster, who were tour mates with Rush. Pie du Bois. What can you tell us about the Neil Pie collaboration on Tom Sawyer?
Well, we were pretty good friends back then, and we were doing a lot of touring, as you said, together. And I remember Pi giving Neil a few lyric sheets and saying if these are of any use ever. And one of them was called Louis the Warrior. And in fact, I have the original Pi version because he gave me a copy at the same time. And Neil, you know, pondered them for a while. And when we got to writing, he tooled around with it and kind of shaped it into more of our style. And Tom Sawyer was born. So it's kind of an interesting way to go about it. He'd done that once before with Closer to the Heart. A friend of his, Peter Talbot, who lives in the west coast of America, had sent him some ideas for Closer to the Heart, and Neil kind of forged them himself to be the song that it ended up being. So it's nice when that happens. It's kind of a fresh input, some new kind of ideas, different, rhyming, different, I don't know, just a different energy. And both those songs stand out in our collection of songs for different reasons. But I think it's nice to have some other person's energy involved sometimes.
Defined literally in Italian, this next song means small boat, if I'm not mistaken, barchetta, which became red barchetta. We're going to play it in the radio in a second. How would you set that song up all these years later? Fan favorite for sure.
I don't know. I guess Neil is a car freak. Alex is a lesser car freak.
Yeah.
But I'd never heard of this car in my life, but he was telling me all about these Ferraris and this race. And the Mille Miglia, I think that's how they pronounce it. Anyway, and he'd read this, again, he had read a story written by another writer, and he'd been inspired to kind of do his own take on it about a time in the future when gas-powered vehicles were not allowed, which is kind of prescient. And yeah, so we had fun putting it together, a little kind of movie. And we approached everything on that album as a small film, and that we were just in charge of the soundtrack for that particular, which is why the album ended up being called Moving Pictures, obviously. Yeah, so that's how I remember how that song was born.
Speaking of moving pictures, the album cover, for anyone listening that's unaware, if you want to come and get your photo taken one day in front of the building that is featured on Moving Pictures, it's in Toronto, Canada, the corner of Queen and University.
Yep, Queen's Park.
And if you look really closely, you can maybe make out two or maybe even all three of the pictures. And speaking of you're not taking yourselves too seriously and injecting humor in pretty much everything you do, there's a couple of serious shots. People will know one of the images as being specific to Rush. But one of the images is nothing but funny. Dogs playing
Dogs playing poker.
Dogs playing poker, the classic shot. Do you remember it was
All
that?
dogs play poker.
Of course
Everybody
they
knows
do. Mine
that.
does.
So it's just fairly normal to put it on your album cover.
Was that a reaction of the art director to your sense of humor, or did you guys come up with that idea?
I think we collaborated on
Yeah.
some of those ideas. So we talked about what should be in the
Yeah.
pictures.
You know, we should get.
Why don't we get a dog playing cards or something stupid? You know, one of them was supposed to be Joan of Arc, and it was actually the photographer Deborah Samuels who played Joan of Arc in that.
With the fire and the
Yeah,
cross,
yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, and so I don't know who came up with the idea, but it was one of those great stupid jam sessions that we have where we just throw goofy ideas around. Sometimes they stick.
And
Now we do the same thing when we're making movies for our show. So
Yeah. Except it's just way more expensive now.
yeah,
For nothing.
and very indulgent.
But a riot.
And now, as Rush fans are running to their collection to check out those photos and moving pictures, we'll play a track from the record. Standing in the limelight, the universal dream, which has become a universal fear. Is it really Neil personified more than any other Rush song? To someone like me, it seems so, given his absence, which I respect. I have spoken to him as I'm doing now with you, but he does less of this than you do. The limelight is too much for Neil, typically.
Yeah, he's a shy person. Is that song, it's only really about his view at that time in his life of success. And, you know, kind of to be successful or not to be successful is really what that song is about and what it means to a person like himself who is shy, you know, who got into music because he loved and was passionate about creation. What happens when you take a person like that and throw them in the limelight? You know, you're going to have all these mixed feelings about everything, and that's exactly what the song is about.